Hi, we'll be talking today about the second part of our lesson on translations of the sine and cosine functions. Yesterday we took a look at the phase shift, and today we'll be adding in the vertical shift, and then we'll be working on how to write functions if we're given the amplitude, period, phase shift, and vertical translation, and then we'll be working throughout on graphing compound functions. So getting to our first example, I'm given this function, y equals 2 times the cosine of x over 4 plus pi, then minus 1. This part on the end, the minus 1, is new for us. And essentially all that's going to do is at the end we are going to lower our graph by 1 unit. Okay? So I'm going to get this written into our standard form of y equals 2 times the cosine, and now I'm going to factor out this multiplier of 1/4 x plus, now this gets a little interesting, if I factor out 1/4 from pi, that actually becomes 4 pi. The reason for that is if I redistribute the 1/4 to the x, that gives me x over 4, and the 1/4 to the 4 pi, that gives me just pi. The 1/4 and the 4 cancel, leaving me with just pi. And then, of course, our new part, minus 1. The first thing I will do is I'll graph it without any shifts. Okay? So graph, just as we did before, without shifts. So the period will be affected by the 1/4, the amplitude by the 2. So the amplitude again is 2, so I'll go up 2, down 2. The period, well, let's see, period will be equal to 2 pi over 1/4, which becomes 8 pi. So I'll count out 4 tick marks, 1, 2, 3, 4 tick marks, and mark that as 8 pi. Halfway would be 4 pi. And then from there, I see, all right, well, this is the cosine function, which starts in the up position. So I'll grab a color here. Starts up, right here. Then 0, down, 0, up, and those will be my points if I'm not including any of the shifts. However, this graph does have some shifts in it. First off, we have a phase shift, which is going to move it to the left 4 pi. And then I have a vertical shift, which will move it down 1. All right. So 4 pi, that's going to be 2 tick marks, 1, 2, to get to 4 pi, but I'm moving to the left, so I'm going to have to add some tick marks on the other side here. 1, 2, which unfortunately my axis doesn't go that far. And then I'm going to be moving down 1, so my axes are going to have to go down an extra 1 down here to -3. And then I'll move each of these. So we're moving to the left 4 pi, which is 2 tick marks. So this is at -4 pi here. And down 1. So the left 4 pi, 1, 2 tick marks, and down 1. Okay, so again, that went 1, 2 tick marks to the left, and down 1. Then I'll do the same thing to the next one. 4 pi to the left, 1, 2 tick marks, down 1. 2 tick marks to the left, 1, 2, and down 1. 1, 2, and down 1. 1, 2, and down 1. And then I connect the dots. And that will give me one cycle of this cosine function. There we have it. So review, once again, I rewrote it so that this multiplier was pulled outside the parentheses, which made this just x, and I had to compensate by turning my pi into 4 pi. Then I graphed without any of the shifts, identifying the period and the amplitude. And then I put the shifts in for my second graph, which moved it left 4 pi and down 1. All right, so from there, let's move on. No, we don't need to go that far yet. To write a function. Now we're going to be given certain pieces of information. First off, this says we want a cosine function. So I'm going to be writing something with cosine, not sine. I know the amplitude is 5. The period is 2 pi. A phase shift of negative pi over 8. And a vertical shift of negative 2. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll say y is equal to, amplitude is 5, times the cosine. That's probably the nicest part. Now I have to put the part that compensates for the period. Remember, this multiplier out in front, I have that the period is equal to 2 pi over that value. Okay? So if I'm saying that the period is 2 pi, that's equal to 2 pi over that b value, then b must be 1. 2 pi over 1 equals 2 pi. So b is 1, so this is just going to be 1, and I'm going to write it in there even though we technically don't have to, times x minus the phase shift was negative pi over 8, so minus a negative pi over 8, and then a vertical shift of down 2, so minus 2, and that's done. Okay? So again, each of these was affected this way. I've got the cosine function, so I made sure I had cosine, not sine. Amplitude. All right, the amplitude of 5, that went here. Period of 2 pi. That told me that the period was equal to 2 pi over b. Then solving for b, since the period was 2 pi in this case, I had b is equal to 1. So in essence, this right here gave me this part. Then the phase shift of negative pi over 8 went here, and the vertical shift of down 2, went on the end. Okay? And that's how it's going to work for each of these. We could simplify things and distribute this value inside. In this case, it wouldn't change anything. Change subtraction to adding the opposite, those things, but it's not necessary. I'm not going to ask you to do that. All right, that covers all our bases for this section. Here's your homework assignment. Good luck and have fun.